I was born into a Christian family. We went to church every Sunday, as far as I can remember. It was a Baptist church in South Africa, and my mum was quite involved, her dad having been a minister. So that took me up to age 11 when we moved to England, and we started going to a Church of England. Again, really plugged into the children's ministry. All of this time, I think, with the knowledge that I had, with the knowledge that people had given me, youth leaders, my pastors, my parents, I had what was the childlike faith that I could have. So I believed that Jesus existed. I knew all of my Bible stories, and just grew up with just general knowledge that God was there, and that he does exist. I don't think that at that point I had a good enough knowledge to make that definite choice for myself. But I wouldn't say that there was ever a point where it was life before Jesus, as in I always knew him, about him, but then coming to faith is obviously my next section. So growing up with the Christian background that I had, I would definitely say that I took for granted the knowledge that, yeah, I'm under God, I'm saved, I believe in him, so therefore it's done. I don't really have to do anything more. We changed churches again. We went to a much more modern kind of evangelical, charismatic church, and I was quite taken by the worship and the spiritual aspect of it. But they were also a lot more talking about personal faith, and are you saved? Do you know God do you know God, and do you know Jesus for yourself? And even though I would say that what they said maybe wasn't perfect, it definitely gave me the platform that I needed to think about it. Do I know Jesus for myself? And am I reading the Bible for myself? Am I getting to know him for myself? After maybe a few years in that church, I decided to be baptized. And I would honestly say that when I was baptized, I was saved. I knew what Jesus had done for me. I knew that I was a sinner who needed a savior, and that he was that savior. But at the same time, I was only 14. And when I look back, I think, wow, I was really young to make that decision. But I don't think that God thought, oh, you're only 14. It doesn't count. I do think that I was saved then. I just had so much maturing and growing to do. I was pretty on fire for God for a while. I was like, all my friends from school need to come to church, and I'll read my Bible at school. I don't care what people think of me. And that was great, but it didn't last that long. And when we moved again out of that church, and I made different friends, and I got into different groups, it just kind of petered out a little bit. I was less enthusiastic, and the years that followed being not where I should have been. I think at the time, being a teenager, I was quite influenced by what I would appear to other people. That kind of worked both ways. With church, it would be, I want to have the outward appearance of being a really good Christian. So I knew what I needed to do to give that appearance, to seem like I'm doing really well, seem like nothing was wrong, that my relationship with God was great. And then with non-church, I would at the same time probably know what I needed to do to fit in there as well. And with my personality, I'm quite a people pleaser. I didn't thankfully stray way out of the gate, but it doesn't matter. Sinning is sinning. Yeah, so as a teenager, I just kind of knew my audience, and I knew what to say to who. Through these years where I would say I wasn't walking with God as close as I should have been, really feel like he continued to bless me. I got into university that I really wanted to get into, and before that I met, dated and married Josh. God knew who I needed to be with. And obviously mine and Josh's story is a long one and would take another 20 minutes to tell. So you can ask me about it if you want to know. God's hand was really over my life, even when I wasn't putting him center forward. Jesus was not happy with me and Josh just going along, doing our own thing. He really chastened us, talked to us about getting into a church. Here in Norwich, we finally came to Servants Church. And amazingly, it was like 7 years ago. Jesus really used servants and the people in servants to just push us in the direction we needed. He was really faithful in taking me out of a place where I was just trying to look like a Christian. Even when we first started coming to Servants, it was definitely, let me just say what I need to say. Just let them think what they need to think. And then I realized, there are people in this church who are not doing well, and they're honest about it. And they're telling us, this is my walk, but it's not going so well right now. And I was amazed. I was like, wow, okay, we're allowed to admit that? Okay, maybe I should admit that I'm not doing so well either. And that took years. And I think that that's the kind of place that Jesus was trying to get me to. Admit that you're not doing well, and then ask me for help, and we'll build from there. So that was the place where I was like, okay, my pride needs to go. I need to try to stop looking like I've got this all under control, because I always just thought, as long as other people think that I'm doing okay, then it's fine. But that's not at all right. And I can be doing terribly in everybody else's eyes as long as I'm right with Jesus. But that's what's gonna, keep me in communion with God, and keep my life on track, keep my life to his will. And one of the things that I think showed that really well was that I struggled so much to pray out loud when I first started praying at Servants. And it was because other churches didn't really necessarily encourage you to do it. Whereas here it was like, oh no, I have to pray out loud. What am I going to say? This is really going to show me up. This is going to show where my heart is. This is going to show that I'm not praying enough by myself. I'm not reading my Bible enough by myself. And over the years, that's just, that's showing me that my relationship with Jesus is just getting that much better, because I'm praying when I should. I'm not just going to him when every few weeks or every few months when I'm desperate. I'm picking up my Bible as much as I possibly can. And I actually want to. And that has taken years. And I feel like God captured my heart when I was a little child, and it's literally taken 20 years for him to soften it enough for me to say, oh, actually, I do want your will, not my will. I definitely think that having children definitely been something that's pushed me towards God. This is how I was before I had kids, and now I realize the responsibility and the love that I have for these children, and that's the love that God has for me times 100. And it's just incomprehensible. And he's just been so faithful. For those of the people who know me at Servants, know me well enough, they know how much I like to be in control, and how much that I think I can do everything myself. So my greatest daily prayer is just that I can be humbled, and that I can be a servant